The morning light slipped through the cracked windows of their small bathroom, casting soft golden beams on peeling walls and rusted taps. In the heart of Ajegunle, a noisy, overpopulated corner of Lagos, peace was a luxury. But in this moment, Kelechi and Amanda had it. Kneeling on the worn, tiled floor, the young couple gently bathed their newborn son, Chidi, in a blue plastic tub that sat on a cracked concrete slab. It was their daily ritual. Kelechi hummed an off-key lullaby while Amanda cradled Chidi's tiny body, their laughter echoing gently in the cramped space. The baby kicked and splashed, his soft cries muffled by worn water and the comfort of love. The world outside, barking dogs, hawkers shouting, generator hums, faded away. Chidi was everything to them. After years of struggle, miscarriage, and whispered prayers into the night, his birth had filled their lives with purpose. They had little, a room with paper-thin walls, an old mattress, and second-hand appliances, but Chidi made it enough. They bathed him with boiled rainwater and lavender soap, dried him with the softest towel Amanda could find at the market, and wrapped him in the baby blanket they'd bought with borrowed money. Every touch, every glance was full of reverence. Outside, Mama Esther, the 62-year-old landlady, leaned against her porch railing, watching silently. She was a permanent fixture in the compound, always barefoot, always muttering under her breath, eyes sharp behind thick lenses. Her face was carved with age and suspicion. She saw everything, and this morning, her attention was fixed on the small stream of bathwater trickling out of the apartment's rear drain and into the gutter. When the bathroom ritual ended, Kelechi carried the tub outside as usual and poured the used water into the narrow trench by the back door. He never noticed the figure watching from around the corner. Moments later, Mama Esther crept forward with an old plastic bucket, scooping the cloudy water into it, glancing around like a thief. She moved with surprising speed for her age, disappearing behind her wooden shack before anyone saw her. Amanda, adjusting the window curtain, caught a glimpse of the old woman's hunched back as she carried off the bucket. Her brow furrowed. "Strange," she murmured. "Maybe she's just cleaning?" The thought lingered, but the moment passed. There was laundry to fold, baby clothes to dry, and a nap to catch before the next feeding. But that night, something changed. As they undressed Chidi for his evening bath, Amanda let out a sharp gasp. His back was covered in a strange, scaly rash, red, raised patches, spreading from his shoulder blades to his waist. The baby whimpered as she touched them, his skin hot and pulsing. Kelechi stared in disbelief, his heart hammering in his chest. They had done everything right, everything clean, everything safe. In the dim light of the bathroom, the blue tub sat empty. Amanda clutched Chidi to her chest, her eyes wide with fear, and for the first time, she felt the cold weight of something unspoken creeping into their home. Kelechi had always known struggle. Growing up in a one-room apartment with 4 siblings and a mother who sold roasted corn by the roadside, life had taught him patience, endurance, and the value of hard, honest work. Now 32, he worked long hours as a delivery bike rider, navigating the congested streets of Lagos with a speed that came from experience and a desperation to meet his daily targets. His job was demanding, unpredictable, and often dangerous, but it kept food on the table and fuel in his dreams. What he lacked in money, he made up for in love, especially for Amanda. She was the calm in his storm, the one person who made him feel like more than just a man trying to survive. Their love had been fast but true, and when she told him she was pregnant, he didn't flinch. He only promised to work harder. Amanda, 27, had once been a teacher. She had loved the classroom, the smell of chalk, the chatter of children, the joy of shaping young minds. But as her pregnancy advanced and fatigue settled deep in her bones, she stepped away from work, telling herself it was temporary. What she hadn't expected was the isolation that came after. Days blended into each other inside the small flat. And though she adored her son, the exhaustion of constant feeding, cleaning, and worry began to gnaw at her. She rarely spoke of how tired she felt. Kelechi was already doing so much. She didn't want to add to his burden. Besides, things would get better. Once Chidi got stronger, once they moved to a better neighborhood, once they had a bit more money saved. Their landlady, Mama Esther, lived in the first flat near the entrance of the building. She was a figure Amanda had always watched with quiet curiosity. The old woman was reserved, rarely smiled, and spoke in fragments that often trailed into silence. Yet there was something about her, an unspoken authority that made even the rowdiest tenants greet her with respect. Amanda admired her from afar. A widow living alone, managing a rundown property in the chaos of Ajagunle. There was strength in that. Amanda sometimes waved or tried to make conversation, but Mama Esther rarely engaged beyond a nod or a muttered word. The building itself was a patchwork of life. Cracks lined the walls, the plumbing hissed at night, and the generator coughed more than it roared, but it was home. Uncle Bio, a retired soldier with a limp and a booming laugh, often sat in the courtyard peeling oranges. Miss Kemi, the night nurse from the health center down the road, came and went in quiet bursts, her uniform always creased, her eyes always tired. Then there was Ao, the young mechanic with oil-stained fingers and endless stories about the cars he swore he could fix, if only he had the right parts. Despite the building's age and wear, it was full of shared meals, laughter, arguments, and borrowed salt. But now, something felt off. It began with the rash on Chidi's back. What started as a few small patches quickly spread, becoming red and scaly. Amanda's worry grew with every passing day. She tried different soaps, applied baby creams, and even borrowed aloe from Miss Kemi. But nothing helped. "Na baby skin eagle clear," Kelechi said each time she brought it up. He meant well. He truly believed it was normal, something all babies went through. But Amanda knew this wasn't just baby skin. Something deeper was wrong. As her concern deepened, so did her attention to her surroundings. And increasingly, her eyes were drawn to Mama Esther. The old woman still collected water with that same battered plastic bucket, still moved with quiet efficiency. But now, Amanda noticed the way she always hid the bucket behind her front door, as if guarding it. She remembered that morning she'd seen Mama Esther scoop the bathwater from the gutter, and how Chidi's rash had appeared that same night. The memory, once brushed off, now burned in her mind. Then one evening, as Amanda cleaned Chidi's bath, she found something strange. A dried, shriveled flower stuck in the corner of the plastic tub. It wasn't from their house. They didn't keep flowers. She held it up, frowning, a sense of unease crawling up her spine. It was brittle, almost powdery, with a scent she couldn't place. Her eyes drifted toward the door, and then, unbidden, toward Mama Esther's flat. That night, while rocking Chidi to sleep, she couldn't stop thinking about that flower, or the strange way Mama Esther's eyes seemed to follow them during the day. The pieces hadn't formed a full picture yet, but Amanda could feel it. Something was wrong. And she was beginning to suspect that the sickness invading her son's body wasn't entirely natural. The morning air was thick with humid, and the compound was quiet, save for the hum of a distant generator and the occasional squawk of chickens scratching near the gutters. Amanda had just finished bathing Chidi and was stepping out to hang his small towel when something strange caught her eye. At the edge of the compound, behind a wall half covered in moss and old paint, Mama Esther was crouched beside a large clay jar. In her hands was the familiar blue plastic bucket, the same one Amanda used to pour out Chidi's bathwater. Amanda froze. The old woman wasn't just emptying the water. She was carefully pouring it into the jar, drop by drop, murmuring something under her breath. Her eyes were closed. Her lips moved in a steady, low rhythm, like prayer or a chant. The clay jar gave off a faint, sour smell that Amanda couldn't place. Something about the whole scene made her chest tighten. Amanda stepped forward, heart pounding. "Mama!" she called out sharply. Mama Esther flinched and turned, her face expressionless. "What are you doing with that water?" Amanda's voice trembled slightly. The old woman straightened up slowly, her wrinkled hands still gripping the bucket. "You young girls," she muttered, her tone dismissive. "You see evil everywhere. It's just water. You throw it away. I use it. Is it now a crime to recycle?" She turned her back to Amanda and walked toward her flat, the clay jar carefully sealed with a frayed piece of cloth. Amanda stood there, stunned, her heart hammered as she processed what she had seen. It wasn't just odd. It felt deliberate, almost ritualistic. She rushed inside and told Kelechi everything. He was changing Chidi's diaper and barely looked up. "Old women do strange things," he said with a chuckle. "No be everything get meaning. You know Mama Esther. She's just odd. No harm in her." Amanda stared at him, frustrated. "Kelechi, she's collecting our baby's water." She was whispering. It wasn't normal. He shrugged. "And where do you want us to go?" "You know, say money tight. We can't just pack and move because you're having a feeling." Amanda wanted to scream. "This isn't just a feeling. I'm telling you, something's wrong. What if it's connected to Chidi's rash?" But Kelechi was unmoved. "You trust people too little," he said gently. "Mama Esther's just eccentric. She's lived here for years. If she were dangerous, we'd know." But that night, Chidi's fever spiked. Amanda woke to find his tiny body flushed, his skin hot to the touch, and the rash had spread. His neck, his chest, his back all covered in raised, scaly patches. The baby whimpered, restless and sledding. Amanda wrapped him in a cloth and rushed to the clinic, tears stinging her eyes. The doctor examined Chidi, brows furrowed, lips pursed. "He's reacting to something," he said slowly. "But it's not an infection. It looks topical, something external. Maybe water, lotion, detergent?" Amanda's hands clenched on her lap. "We use only clean water, boiled, no perfumes, nothing new." The doctor offered little comfort. "All I can say is something is irritating his skin. You'll have to watch everything." By the time she returned home, Amanda was no longer doubting herself. Something unnatural was happening. Something the clinic couldn't explain, but her heart could feel. She stared at Mama Esther's door as she passed it, the clay jar now sitting just inside the threshold, hidden in the shadows. Amanda's gut twisted. This wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't imagination. It was real, and her baby was paying the price. Amanda became a woman possessed, not with rage, but with fear sharpened into vigilance. Every day, after feeding and soothing Chidi, she would position herself near the cracked window that overlooked the compound. From there, she watched Mama Esther with the intensity of someone who knew, deep in her gut, that something was off. The old woman's routine never changed. She would sweep her porch in the early morning, mutter to herself as she checked her plant pots, and, most disturbing of all, she would only collect water from the baths of babies in the building. Amanda saw it again and again. Miss Kemi's sister had brought her newborn niece over once, and the next morning, Mama Esther was there with her bucket. When Ayo's cousin visited with her infant twins, Amanda saw Mama Esther crouched near the gutter afterward, muttering as she gathered the runoff. Every time Amanda tried to bring it up to Kelechi, he brushed her off. "You're watching her too much," he'd say. "It's not healthy." But Amanda couldn't help it. The more she watched, the more unsettled she became. She began taking notes, dates, times, anything she could track. She started locking the bathroom door after every bath, pouring the leftover water far from the house, making sure the bucket never sat unattended. Still, the rash on Chidi's back remained. Some days it faded slightly, giving her hope, but it always came back angrier, redder, more inflamed. Then came the fevers, the inconsolable crying at night. Amanda felt like she was unraveling. One afternoon, while trying to soothe a screaming Chidi, she snapped. "You don't understand because you're never here," she shouted as Kelechi tried to calm her down. He looked stunned. "Amanda, I'm doing my best. I'm working all day, riding all over this mad city to keep us afloat. And now I come home and you're accusing me?" Amanda's voice cracked, raw with exhaustion. "I'm the one who's here all day. I'm the one who watches him scream, scratch, sweat. I'm the one watching that woman collect his bathwater like it's medicine. And you keep acting like I'm crazy." Kelechi, frustrated, ran a hand over his face. "You're becoming paranoid, Amanda. It's not healthy for you or the baby." She turned away from him, tears running down her face. "Then you deal with it," she whispered. "But when something happens to our son, don't say I didn't see it coming." That night, long after Kelechi had gone to bed and the compound had fallen into its usual symphony of distant radios and generator hums, there was a knock at the door. Amanda opened it cautiously to find Miss Kemi, still in her nurse uniform, her face grim. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. Once inside, she lowered her voice. "I've seen rashes like Chidi's before. Twice. Same building. Same symptoms. The families moved out and never talked about it again." Amanda stared at her, stunned. "Why didn't you say anything?" Kemi hesitated, then replied, "Because around here, people don't ask questions they don't want answers to." Amanda's voice trembled. "Do you think it's Mama Esther?" Kemi exhaled slowly. "I don't know, but I know this. She used to be a traditional midwife. Long before you moved here. My aunt said she was respected, but strange. Lost a child of her own decades ago. Some say she's never been the same. Obsessed with motherhood. Obsessed with babies. And with grief." Amanda's heart clenched. It explained so much, and yet nothing. Still, it was enough to confirm what she feared. Something was terribly wrong. The next day, while Kelechi was out and Chidi napped in his crib, Amanda wandered past Mama Esther's porch. Something caught her eye. Tucked into a crack near the edge of the wooden step was a small, worn photograph. She pulled it out gently. It was faded, almost colorless with time. In it was a young woman holding a baby. Scrawled in neat cursive on the back, Chinedu, 1992. Amanda's chest tightened. She clutched the photo and marched to Mama Esther's door. The old woman opened slowly, her face unreadable. Amanda held out the picture. "Who is this?" she demanded. For a long moment, Mama Esther said nothing. Then her eyes darkened, her lips pressing into a thin line. "You've seen too much," she said softly. And with that, she shut the door. Amanda stood there, heart pounding. She couldn't breathe. She knew without needing more evidence that Mama Esther's obsession wasn't just superstition or folklore. It was grief twisted into ritual. The baby in the photo, the jar, the muttering, the water, it all connected. She clutched Chidi tighter that night, afraid to sleep, afraid to even blink. But it wasn't enough. In the deepest part of the night, Amanda awoke with a start. Silence. She turned to check Chidi's crib, only to find it empty. The blanket was on the floor. The baby was gone. Panic shot through her like lightning. "Chidi," she screamed. "Kelechi, he's gone." Kelechi stumbled out of bed, wide-eyed. "What do you mean? He was just—" But Amanda was already tearing through the house, her voice echoing across the compound. Doors opened, lights flicked on, neighbors emerged in confusion. But Amanda didn't wait. She was already running toward the only place that made sense: Mama Esther's flat. The compound was chaos. Amanda's screams had drawn out neighbors in various states of disarray. Headscarves, wrappers, and sleepy eyes filled the courtyard. Kelechi was barefoot, heart racing as he tore through the building, calling out Chidi's name with increasing desperation. Amanda ransacked every room, every corner, ignoring the stares and questions. "Check behind the kitchens," she cried. "Check every door." The air felt thick, charged with panic and the weight of something too dark to name. Someone called the police. Sirens could be heard in the distance, growing closer. Still, no sign of the baby. Then Daniel, the lanky mechanic who always smelled of engine grease, stepped forward, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "She was seen going toward the back garden," he said, voice low. "Before dawn, I thought she was just going to pick herbs, like she always does." Amanda didn't wait. She sprinted, barefoot and wild-eyed, across the muddy ground toward the back of the compound. Amanda didn't wait. She sprinted, barefoot and wild-eyed, across the muddy ground toward the back of the compound where a forgotten garden stretched out, overgrown and half-swallowed by weeds. Hidden beyond the trees was something Amanda had only seen once, an old root cellar nearly sunken into the earth. Its rusted door now hung slightly open. Her breath caught. She pushed the door open with trembling hands. Inside, the air was cool, damp, and eerily still. The space smelled of damp soil and burnt herbs. Dim candlelight flickered along the stone walls, casting long shadows that danced over shelves lined with dried roots, flowers, and bowls of murky water. It looked like a shrine, a place lost in time. In the very center, surrounded by a circle of melted candles and dried petals, lay a woven basket, and in it, Chidi. He was sleeping, cheeks flushed but peaceful, his tiny hands curled into fists. Amanda fell to her knees, sobbing as she gathered him into her arms. Relief crashed through her body like a wave. He was alive. He was whole. Then she heard the soft shuffle of footsteps behind her. Mama Esther stood at the edge of the room, eyes glassy, her expression unreadable. For a long moment, she said nothing, just stared at Amanda cradling the baby. Then she spoke, quietly, as if to herself. "He smells like my son, the one I lost 30 years ago." Amanda stiffened. "I wasn't trying to harm him," Mama Esther continued, voice trembling. "I wanted to preserve his purity. The bathwater keeps a part of them, you know. Their scent, their innocence. I collect it, so it doesn't disappear." Her hands were clasped, her frame small beneath her oversized wrapper. It was never for evil. Amanda was shaking, clutching Chidi tighter. "He's not yours," she said, voice cracked with rage and heartbreak. He's my child. Mine. Mama Esther's face contorted. She stumbled back and sank to the ground, her legs folding awkwardly beneath her. No one told me when Chinedu died, she whispered. I was in surgery, bleeding, and when I woke up, they told me he was gone, buried without me. No grave to hold, no final touch. Just silence. So I try. I remember babies. I remember their smells, their cries. I don't take them. I just want to hold on to what's good. Amanda's tears flowed freely now. Tears of relief, of confusion, of horror. How could she hate this woman in this moment? How could she not? A sound of sirens cut through the heavy silence. Flashlights flickered outside the root cellar entrance. 2 officers stormed in, followed by neighbors pointing and whispering. Mama Esther didn't move. She just sat there on the floor, hands open, like someone who had finally surrendered to the weight of her grief. The officers didn't speak to Amanda at first. They gently took Mama Esther by the arms. She didn't resist. There was no screaming, no struggle. Just silence as they led her away. A candle still flickering in the background. She wasn't arrested for witchcraft. This wasn't a story of hexes or dark magic. But she was charged with trespassing, unlawful entry, and child endangerment. The law didn't deal in superstition. It dealt in actions. And what she had done was a violation, no matter the intent. Amanda watched as the police car pulled away, Chitty safe in her arms, his breath soft against her neck. Behind her, Kelechi finally caught up, wrapping his arms around them both. She didn't say anything. There was nothing left to say. Just a child asleep, a mother unraveling from fear, and the echo of a woman who had tried to hold on to memory and lost herself in the process. Within a week, Amanda and Kelechi packed up their lives and left the old building behind. They didn't look back as they drove away, the weight of the past few weeks heavy in their silence. A distant cousin of Amanda's had offered them a room in a quieter part of Surulere, and though it was small and temporary, it felt like safety, like a beginning, the kind they now understood could not be taken for granted. Amanda didn't sleep for days, waking often just to check if Chidi was still beside her, his chest rising and falling, his skin clear and calm. Gradually, his rash faded, his laughter returned. The baby who had once cried through the night now gurgled at sunlight, clutched at his mother's fingers, and cooed at the sound of her voice. Amanda, too, began to heal. She returned to teaching part-time at a local school, starting with just 2 mornings a week. It gave her purpose again, structure, adult conversation, and the reminder that she had always been more than just the woman who watched from windows and waited for something to go wrong. She took the bus each morning with Chidi on her back, humming softly, her eyes a little brighter with each passing day. Back in the compound, the incident with Mama Esther left the community shaken. Tenants whispered quietly in the courtyard, their voices lowered not out of fear, but out of sorrow. The old woman's story had become something more than strange. It was tragic. People spoke of the baby she lost decades ago, of how no one ever saw her cry, how grief had turned her into something quiet and broken. Most neighbors admitted they had seen things, odd behaviors, murmured rituals, but had said nothing. Now, they wished they had asked more questions, offered more kindness, noticed the signs before things had gone too far. Kelechi was not spared from the reckoning. One quiet evening, while Amanda rocked Chidi to sleep, he stood in the doorway and watched her for a long time. Then he stepped forward and took her hand. "I should have listened to you," he said softly. "I should have believed what you felt, not just what I could see." Amanda didn't respond right away, but her eyes met his, and in them was something forgiving, tired, but real. That night, they talked longer than they had in weeks, peeling back layers of silence and fear. They held each other not as strangers in crisis, but as partners, trying to find their way back. They began couples therapy not long after. At first, it felt awkward, exposing their failures to a stranger, but slowly, it helped. They learned to speak without defense, to listen without judgment. Amanda voiced her loneliness. Kelechi admitted his helplessness. The therapy became their shared space, a place where survival gave way to rebuilding. Out of the ashes of fear, Amanda also found purpose beyond her job. She launched an online support group called Postpartum Watch, designed to help other mothers recognize signs of mental strain, overlook dangers, and subtle threats that were too often dismissed. It started with a handful of women, friends, former students, neighbors, but within a month, it had grown. Women from all over Lagos joined, sharing their stories, their worries, their truths. Amanda moderated it with gentle resolve, offering resources, starting conversations about maternal instinct, medical bias, and community responsibility. The pain hadn't disappeared. It still lived in the shadow of memory, but it no longer ruled her. Amanda had faced something unthinkable and walked through it, not untouched, but undefeated. In her arms, Chidi was safe. In her heart, strength pulsed with quiet clarity. She was no longer just surviving. She was reclaiming her voice. Her home, her motherhood, one story at a time. Amanda sat on the narrow balcony of their new flat, gently rocking Chidi in her arms. The evening sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the sky with soft orange and lavender streaks. A gentle breeze stirred the curtain behind her, fluttering like a quiet breath. For the first time in a long while, the world felt still. Chidi's tiny hand curled around a lock of her hair, his breathing slow and steady against her chest. Amanda looked out over the street, children playing below, a woman selling roasted corn on the corner, a bus groaning past with music spilling from its windows. Ordinary life humming softly around her. And yet, everything had changed. There were still moments when she remembered that night, the panic, the hollow terror in her chest. But they no longer had power over her. She had found her strength, not in grand gestures or shouted warnings, but in quiet persistence. In watching, in feeling, in refusing to let herself be silenced. Her world had come dangerously close to unraveling, but she had held it together with nothing but instinct and love. Her voice, calm and steady, echoed in her mind like a voiceover from somewhere deeper than thought. I wanted to believe the world was either good or evil, but some people are just broken, and when broken hearts stay untreated, they find strange ways to survive. She glanced down at Chidi, brushing her thumb over the curve of his cheek. He shifted slightly, murmured something in his sleep, then settled again. Safe, whole, hers. Amanda leaned back, closing her eyes for a moment, letting the wind kiss her face, letting the sounds of evening fold around her like a soft blanket. My son is safe now, and I've learned something no book ever taught me. Intuition is not paranoia. It's protection in disguise. She opened her eyes again and smiled.